Hello. It is December 15th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. EST, and you are watching the Dovecote episode 82 with Brian Liberge. Brian, say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Brian Liberge, and I am a real person that is here. I'm a game designer and a part-time nun, and I run games on demand sometimes. I do a lot of little things. We'll see what we end up talking about.
Yeah, hang on, I'm actually just gonna hit a button really quick. Okay, I hit my button. uh, I think we'll start. We'll kind of go somewhat in order here. Recently, you did with my good friend Natalie Putum a campaign for a game called Last Kiss on
Yeah,
BackerKit,
I won't
and
tell Natalie that you forgot her name. Don't worry.
I forget. I love the implication that I would forget. Uh, but yeah, do you want to tell folks about Last Kiss?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do know that our good friend Natalie, whose name we both know,
Uh-huh.
she has updated the link. So if people go to lastguessgame.com, they will now find a pre-order page, which is very exciting.
Oh, let me put that in the
Um,
chat.
yeah, put that in the chat, for
Here you
all
go.
the people. But Last Kiss is my newest game. I don't know. I've written 30 something projects at this point, but it's definitely, I think, the most ambitious game that I've done where my name is the only name on the cover of the book. It's a powered by the apocalypse game, technically, in the sense that it uses bits of belonging outside belonging and bits of powered by the apocalypse. And it's a game about hopelessness. It's a game about queer identity and uh, authority and just not being able to succeed. So just making bad choices, which I really love. It's a game that I'm super passionate about because I've been playing it for a year and I'm not sick of it, which is generally not the case when I write a game. Boy, do I get sick of my own games. I think this game is really good. So I'm really excited that the backer kit did so well and that we're going to be able to bring it to people later next year.
Hell yeah. I've been intrigued to play it. A lot of things that I mean, I think an early point where I became interested in it was when you came up to me and asked if you could use win attractively from South of World. Um,
Yes.
it's like, okay, you're on
Yeah.
a good wavelength here. Um, I am I'm curious, like, you know, obviously, like, it is a game that is like interested in moving towards this sort of uh this ending, this end point. I think it was previously what was the name of the game previously?
It was originally called Youth at the End of the World.
Yeah,
Youth at the End of the World.
the
And it's
endings. Yeah.
the ending is still true, right? Every game of Last Kiss ends with everything ending. Everything succumbs to the darkness. There is no campaign 2 in the same world. It is not possible to do within the confines of the game. So if you're playing a one shot, at the end of that one shot, the entire world ends. And if you're playing a season, at the end of that season, the entire world ends. And that has remained true even with the name change, which is a lot of fun for me. I like it a lot. And that sort of came out of my love for games like Monster Hearts that I find often have really unsatisfying resolutions. I love it, the game. That's not to sort of knock the game and say it's bad. It's just true. You can play a one shot of Monster Hearts and you feel like you only got 10 minutes into an episode of a TV show. And you can play a season of Monster Hearts and just feel like so little was resolved. But by the time of the second season, sometimes it just feels like a different game. And that's, I think, so many RPGs. Often it's a selling point that there's always more to do, or at least there feels like there's more to do. But I like games with endings very often. This game always has an ending.
Yeah, I like that. I've thought a lot about perhaps not endings as much. Well, I mean, I am kind of classically the like secret ending in my TTRPG type girl.
Hmm.
So yeah, I really like that. I think there's a lot of space to be explored both in endings and like uh in arcs that like aren't just about growth, right? Like
Hmm.
in stories that are about like death and change and such. Um, so I'm curious, like what kind of I suppose unfortunately I'm not as familiar with this game as I'd like to be.
No worries.
But
What do you want to know?
yeah, I'm super
Good
curious. Like,
question.
what is sort of the arc of a character in this game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a great question. And I don't have a great answer, which is going to be real fun because it's pretty open-ended.
Okay.
The characters are all trash. They're just garbage humans because you're seniors in high school
Hmm.
and you've just got a lot of really bad motivation. Like you could play a good character, I suppose, but if you're playing a completely good character, I think you're missing out on most of the game. So you get these characters who are selfish at times, or even when they're not selfish, sometimes they're not selfish for all the wrong reasons, who are pursuing like immediate pleasure very frequently. And if they're not pursuing immediate pleasure, they're often pursuing the idea of goals that aren't that real until the world ends and it all comes crashing down amongst them. And they realize that nothing they did really mattered. Or at least I think that's how it works out a lot of the time. I actually was playing this game last night. We were doing one of our playtest campaigns because I'm still making sure that this is a solid product. I'm still making little changes.
Hmm.
And last night we sat down for our seventh session and I have some very interesting notes because we ended up triggering the cataclysm. And what that means is there's a point in every game where the end of the world like officially starts, and there's a rules shift as the world starts to end. And when you are playing this in a one shot, the Cataclysm generally happens like an hour before the end of the game, or maybe a little less than that. If you are playing in a season, a campaign, you're supposed to have one more episode after the Cataclysm, one more session. But we triggered the Cataclysm very early in the session. And because this has only happened so many times, like it takes a long time to playtest a full campaign, that I only have so much experience with it in a campaign mode. I have a lot more experience in one shots, and what I didn't realize is if you trigger the Cataclysm really early in a session, you're probably
Mhm.
not getting two more sessions of play out of these people. They're going to start dying, which is kind of fantastic. And we saw three out of the four characters die in fairly quick succession. And I kind of had to stop play and use our communication tools and say, hey, I don't think it makes sense for us to do one more session. And everyone
Yeah.
agreed. And so we ended up wrapping it up last night. And what that looked like was really interesting. We had one character uh, face down another character in a sort of like this. They were fighting. They were physically fighting. One was a literal witch who may be responsible for ending the world, and the other person was somebody who was very dedicated to this cult they were in. And the uh, no, I've already screwed it up. I've already screwed up the description. But
It's
the
okay.
point is, because
I screw stuff
it's a
up all the
complicated
time.
narrative. The point is that one person ended up dying out of that fight, and another person ended up getting chased off. And then, because of the psychic connection two people had, one of them ended up dying just because the other one died. And it was just this domino effect of brutal death. And they're in this graveyard, and mausoleums are collapsing. And there's this angel with shadow wings, which is like not a thing in the game. Like, this all
Uh
comes from
huh.
the narrative. And it was just brutal until suddenly there's only one character left who is this monster. They're this sort of like reborn, half alive demon person who's just struggling with even the idea that they were allowed to be the last one. And it was really cool to watch that play out. And it was very bittersweet. And I loved it. I loved watching them all die. It was really fantastic. But the typical character arc for those people was such a mess. Like, I don't think they had good arcs. I think they had a lot of like really like a roller coaster ride of tiny ups and downs where they were just constantly making bad choices and either getting away with it or not. But I wouldn't call it an arc. It was a ride until it suddenly
Yeah.
came crashing down around them. They just ran out of track.
Yeah. That's really fun.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. I was in
yeah,
I keep talking about this on the show, but it was like a really great experience. I was in the Monstrosity LARP,
yes,
the Erotic
yeah.
Vampire LARP, um, and that has a similar like, um, I mean, there's less sudden death, but there are some sudden deaths that happen. But
Hmm.
just the vibe of like, you don't really have an arc. You just kind of run out of track, as you said.
Right.
Um, I think it's
I
really fun. I think having an
I
endpoint
think
where everyone
games like
dies
that
is
are
really good.
great. Yeah. Some of my favorite games, like there's not necessarily an arc unless you really build one. And we talked about Monster Hearts before. I don't think Monster Hearts has a built-in character arc. Like that's on you. Same thing with the Warren Guard. I don't think there's a built-in character arc there. There sort of is if you play it a whole campaign because they have those sort of special episodes around specific playbooks. But
Right.
like it's on you to build that arc. And because this game doesn't really encourage you to like become better people, yeah, uh, yeah, I suspect a lot of people aren't going to have like arcs that look like arcs.
Hell
And I
yeah.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really sick. Um, hell yeah. Do you want to
yeah.
talk about actually is there anything else you want to say about Last Kiss before we
I mean, just
roll
that
on?
I'm really excited about Last Kiss. Like, if anybody ever wanted to play a game where um their gender might be literally become their trauma like halfway through, like if you wanted to play a game where like the communication tools are built for it from beginning to end, so you can really explore things that make you uncomfortable. I really hope you check this out and give Last Kiss a shot. It's so much of it is the games that I love, but trying to make sure that where those games have issues, we don't have the same issues. Um, and I've really fallen in love with this game, so I really hope people check it out.
Yeah, I think the best games do come of that like adoring something and also like having these little bugbears about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you play a game and the more you love a game, the more you're bound to find where it fails. And that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means that you've been playing it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you know, I had someone who knows both me and Avery Alder say to me recently that they're pretty sure I've played Monster Hearts more than Avery has. And it's just not possible to test a game so properly that there's no problems with it. It's just not going to happen. Um, so I found the problems, um, and I hopefully I've only created new ones, not old ones.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the thing with when I think about like design as a design as a thing that creates problems, right? Is like
Hmm.
you're you're always gonna run into new problems and like it's just more questions, different kinds. You're just gonna
Yeah,
fucking like
yeah,
uh have a different kind of kind of fraught experience. Games are fraught is the thing.
hmm hmm
Um, hell yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about the communication tools because you've mentioned them.
yeah.
I'd love to
Let's
hear
talk
more
about
about that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my design document open. Um, the communication tools that we came up with. So I'm the primary designer in this game, and Natalie Putum of Luck of the Harbor also contributed some significant chunks. And I would definitely say that the communication tools are one of the areas where we collaborated the most heavily. So everything starts with this concept that we created called the ritual of reason. And the ritual of reason goes like this. It states that everything is hopeless, darkness is encroaching, the end is inevitable, but. And that's true for every single game of Last Kiss, whether it is a one shot or a campaign. Those three things are always true. Everything is hopeless, darkness is encroaching, the end is inevitable. And then everyone gets to decide what comes after that last bit. What is
Hmm.
the but that we add? And that really helps establish tone for the game. And some of the options we throw out to people are, but we're going to be sexy and passionate, but we're going to make sure the world knows we're here, but we're going to be as bold and dramatic as possible. But it's up to y'all what you want to do. Can I swear on Twitch? I don't remember.
You
Can I swear
can
on Twitch?
say whatever you want on well, with some limits. Yeah, you can say you can swear on Twitch. You can say faggot
Okay,
on
great.
Twitch. I mean, you can't
Great. I
really,
love that.
but I can.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had played a game where people said, but we're gonna be as fucked up as possible. Yeah, but we're gonna fuck shit up, and something like that. And it was great. And the reason why it was great is they really owned their tone throughout the game, and it was so much fun. They really just like went balls to the wall. Um,
Hell yeah.
and if you're in a campaign, you reaffirm the ritual of reason every single session. That's what you always start with. you can always adjust it as a group. And if we go into a one shot even, and we decide halfway through, oh, what you Eclipse, as my fellow player, believes sexy and passionate means is not what I thought sexy and passionate was going to mean. And we have tools that I like to call the phrases of power that let you to adjust things mid-game.
Hmm.
They are these three little phrases where when you hear them, that's your cue to listen up. I would rather is the first one. It's something that got used in Can You Host, which is another Luck of the Harbor game that both Natalie and I worked on. I think it may have existed before that. I don't fucking know. And essentially, when something happens in a scene, if you don't want to stop the scene, but you're not quite happy. You're not quite willing to let things go on the way it just occurred. You can say, I would rather, and make a suggestion. So if I am stabbing somebody in the eye and you just hate eye stuff, right? Common
Uh-huh.
discomfort is like eye gore. You can say, hey, I would rather we stab this person in the gut and really play up this gut stabbing. And if everyone is okay with that, they go, oh yeah, let's do guts. And you can move on. It's sort of a quick tool, and if it needs to trigger a conversation because we're not all on the same page, then it'll trigger a conversation. But it's a way to let things move on quickly if you're just sort of just hitting your wall. The second one is fade to black. Fade to black, a lot of people are really familiar with. Fade to black means that whatever's happening in the scene, we accept it, but we don't need to keep describing it in detail. We can move on to another scene. And you were asking for that. So often people associate fade to black with sex scenes. Two players might be having a lot of fun describing things in detail, and the rest of us want to move on to the next scene. You would call for a fade to black. I also think there's a lot of really good uses for fade to black. Maybe it's talking about violence again, like just five guys beating up on this one dude. We don't need to talk about that for 10 minutes. We know how that's going to end. This guy's not getting up. We can fade to black on something like that. And then the third one is let's adjust. And let's adjust is the really powerful phrase. That is you calling for a conversation. You want to step back from the from the scene and go completely out of character and really talk about something. And then based off that conversation, we can do whatever we want. We can retcon and change an aspect of the scene that happened. Like maybe you were still processing your discomfort and you couldn't pinpoint exactly what was making you uncomfortable for like 5 minutes, and you finally realized it, and we need to go back. Or maybe we move forward with a better understanding of where everyone is mentally and emotionally. Maybe we don't change anything. Maybe we just needed to have that conversation to reestablish like who's at the table and how this scene is affecting them. But let's adjust, lets you do anything, including changing the ritual reason if we need to change the ritual reason. Let's adjust is that like I want to talk and this is what I want to talk about tool. And on top of that, we grabbed the palette grid. We talked to Jay Dragon about incorporating the palette grid into our game. To the best of my knowledge, uh, it's the first game that's like funded that
Hmm.
has the palette grid fully incorporated. Because I don't
Hell
think
yeah.
Seven Part Pact is technically out, despite how many
No,
people
it's
are
not.
playing it. Right? Yeah. Um, uh, the palette grids in our game, we did alter it a little bit. Uh, Based off our experiences with Last Kiss, we sort of customized it to Last Kiss, and we worked with Jay Dragon to make sure like we weren't like brutalizing it in the process. And that is really there specifically for season play. I don't think it's a practical tool for one shots unless you have extra time, but it's been really interesting to see a grid develop over a season. And those are our three main communication tools. And what I really like about them is that they all sort of tie back into each other. They all really work well with each other because you're often updating the palette grid based off of what happened in previous sessions.
Hmm.
Like we always visit it at the beginning of every session in a campaign. We're thinking about what happened last time. And what happened last time is often getting adjusted based off of how we use our phrases of power. And we reaffirm the ritual reason at the beginning of every episode, and then at the end, when people start dying, we have this tool where every playbook has a special question. I'm going to take a sip of water.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm back. Every playbook
Awesome.
has a special question that when they die, they answer. And
Okay,
once they
that's
feel
fun.
like they've completely answered it, they will repeat the ritual of reason. And it really like creates this capstone moment where it's all tied to each other. So you may have a character who is the witch. We talked about the witch earlier, so you know there's a witch in the game. And the witch has the ability to change reality. It's generally not a good idea, but they do it anyway because that's the game. And when the witch dies, the question that gets posed to them is describe how you were forced to witness the parts of reality you changed end. Does it
Hmm.
hurt when your creations cease? Were you ever real?
Oh, that's fun. Those are good questions.
So they create like a little tiny stinger, a little tiny vignette where they answer that question. And then they go straight into the ritual reason. You know, they say everything is hopeless, darkness is encroaching, the end is inevitable, but we're going to be colorful, dramatic, and over the top. And that it feels so real when they do that. It feels
Hmm.
so done. And when the last player fades away and they say the ritual of reason, then the facilitator says that one more time. Everything is hopeless, darkness is encroaching, the end is inevitable, and whatever your ritual of reason is. And it just feels really all tied into each other and built for the game and customized by the people at the table each and every time.
That sounds
Yeah.
awesome. I love I love how much like naturalistic and sort of what do you call it like a mix of naturalistic and sort of pre-established sort of communication tools. I really like that.
I think that the best communication tools are the ones that empower people to actually use them. There are some tools out there that I know people feel better or more comfortable at the table just knowing that they exist in case they need them. But I feel like some of them are really difficult to use for different personality types.
Oh yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
the best tools are the ones that aid a spectrum of people without closing down communication for any of those people. And it's hard to get there. And that's why like iterative design exists because there are good tools out there and sometimes we just need to change them for what we're doing.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with Faggot Games 3. And I think
Mhm.
like part of that is going to be about like not just designing bravely, but like designing to engender bravery, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I,
yeah.
and I think that tools that are naturalistic do that. Um, tools that are not interested in necessarily like, tools that are less interested in pausing the whole game to deal with an issue, which I think can be like useful for some people, but I think with like the type of game that I'm trying to make, it sounds like the sort of work that you're trying to make, like you
I think
need
we
stuff
need
that's more naturalistic.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, because I think it's important to sometimes have a tool that stops play, right? Because if your choice is doing sort of an open table and walking away or talking,
Right.
I would always rather have given you the option of talking. Like, because walk away if you need to walk away. But I hate the idea that we could have gotten through this
Yeah.
and you could have stayed and we could have kept telling those stories together. And that's not, I don't want to empower. assholes and idiots, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
which I unfortunately think some tools do accidentally. I don't want tools to ever be used to stifle people. I want them to be there to encourage communication and empower people who don't always feel empowered.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I know for myself, like with a lot of tools, um I get like I get kind of a guilt complex about it. I get like very like, oh no,
Sure.
I'm like ruining the game. But then like
Yeah.
to fucking go back to Monstrosity, they had some really fantastic risk management tools in that
Yeah, yeah,
LARP,
yeah.
and like I felt very comfortable using them because I knew that everyone was on the same page and we all knew what they were for and were ready to use them.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Great. Good talk.
safety, good talk. love to love to hit a
I'll
good
see
talk
see you
interview.
later.
Yeah,
You know?
say hi to the kids for me.
Oh my God.
um,
Oh,
I would love to talk about I'll give a quick shout to the fact that your involvement in the fucking Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence is really fucking
yep.
cool.
I
Um,
appreciate that. I try to be cool, you know.
yeah, you absolutely are.
The
Uh,
original Faggot games, you know, the sisters.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, doing fucking great work for years, like uh, the
should we
crucial
should
work
we
of
explain what the sisters are
yeah.
to
Do
to
you yeah
everyone knows?
go please do please and
But yeah, so I
yeah.
mean, honestly, the sisters are hard to explain, but I'll do it
Mhm.
anyway. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are an international order of queer clown drag nuns, and I say those words, queer clown drag nuns, because those are the easiest words to describe who we are. But I gotta tell you, I've met so many sisters at this point because there's thousands of us, and there's not a single one of those words that somebody out there doesn't take issue with, right? And that's just the nature of this organization because it's so expansive. Because every single house, every group is technically its own organization. Like there's no sister pope out there passing out decrees on high. Every city where the sisters exist is technically an independent organization.
Okay.
And as people change and come in, like how things work change. So uh, uh, I'm in the Boston House. I'm actually technically the abbess of the Boston House, at least until the end of the year. We have elections soon. And the way the Boston House works isn't the same as the way the Paris House works or the way the Vegas House works. But at the core, we all agree on two things. We want to go out into the community and we want to spread joy and we want to stop stigmatic guilt or at least slow it down. And
Hmm.
what that means is we think that people shouldn't feel bad about being who they are. As long as they're not hurting themselves or hurting others, all that guilt that people throw on you for being who you are is bullshit. And I'm going to do whatever I can to not make you feel bad about being who you are anymore. And we do that through charity work. We do that by showing up to events and helping people feel safe. We do that by showing up to events and doing everything we can to widen the tent posts. So one of the reasons why you hear the words drag and clown in the description is
Hmm.
we are often very loudly dressed, to put it bluntly. One of the reasons why we do that is when we show up, if people are staring at you, it's because you look good. You know, we're always
Uh-huh.
sort of like the biggest weirdos in the room and people treat us with respect. So that helps you be yourself in any aesthetic version of yourself that you choose to bring in. And no one should be treating you like an outsider as long as we're there. It's one of our many talents. Um, and I firmly believe that the gaming community taught me how to be a sister way before the sisters taught me how to be a sister, because so much of the gaming community is about spreading joy and making people feel not just welcomed, not just allowed to be there, but valued where they are. At least if you're doing it fucking right.
Yeah.
Which I think brings us to what you actually wanted to talk about. If I'm gonna guess correctly, where were you trying to go?
I was honestly kind of just following the just kind of following
Oh, never
the
mind, man.
I was vaguely following the track of things that you'd mentioned in the beginning. I think next might have been Games on Demand.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought you wanted to talk about games in the bed, but
uh,
let's keep talking about the sisters. I don't give a shit. What
yeah,
do you
I'd
want to
love to
talk
talk
about?
about the sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Um.
curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. So like I said, the sisters do all sorts of things. Here in Boston, we have some very adult community nights, and what always springs to mind is there was one year where some of my friends were in town, and I brought them to one of these adult community nights, and there was impact demos happening
Oh,
at
hell
one
yeah.
side of the room, which gotta love it.
Mhm.
But that night, even though I was really there to be in community with my friends, I was there as a sister. It was very recognizable, and they did not have the setup, and they did not have uh, the staff to manage this space properly. And it was a space that sold alcohol. And I ended up spending a good chunk of the night making sure that drunk people did not get hit by a backswing. Um,
Oh,
and that's just a very common like thing to see a sister doing, is to sort of step into a role because the community needs it in that moment. You'll see us walking down the street sometimes in groups with these big, like Home Depot sized plastic buckets,
mhm.
raising money for this or that. We'll do community crawls where we're just in spaces to be with people. We do here in Boston something called a glitter blessing, which people lose their minds over. It's really a beautiful thing. And honestly, what I do is I take a moment with you and I take my chapstick and I say, "Are you allergic to chapstick?" And you say, "No, I'm not allergic to chapstick." I say, "Great." Uh, and you choose a spot on your body where you want to receive the blessing. And I take the chapstick and I say, with this holy relic, I anoint you and I'll mark you with the chapstick. And I look at you and I say, I'll use this to create space to release all the guilt that has built up within you,
Mhm.
that never had any right to be there, that did not have your consent to be thrust upon you, that you do not deserve. And then I will take my biodegradable glitter and I will put the glitter over the mark that I made previously with the chapstick. And I'll say, with this sacred glitter, I remind you that you came into this world perfect and loved. And as long as you continue not to hurt yourself or others, you will continue to be perfect and loved because I love you and I see you for who you are. Some variation of that. And it's just a moment to sit with people and like recognize their inherent divinity.
That's beautiful.
Um, yeah, I mean, so we do a lot of different things. Um, here in Boston, I run a series of live shows called Dungeons and Dragons. We've got another one coming up in uh, January where we take role-playing games and we do them on stage live, generally with local drag performers. And it's a way for us to, one, support local drag. It's a way for me to introduce games that I love to people who may not have heard them because we never have played Dungeons and Dragons. And
Yeah.
the first two shows we did Dungeons and Dragons just to justify the pun, and then I haven't brought it back since, and I don't intend to.
Good, 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 good.
Um, and we raise money for local charities. So it's like what the sisters do is anything that we can label as spreading joy and eliminating guilt, you know? And
Yeah.
that's a lot of shit. Because at the end of the day, it's really hard to feel good about yourself if you're hungry, if you're cold. So, if you just feel bad because people suck, it's a big umbrella what we end up doing.
Lovely. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Good
It's
talk.
very good talk. No, it's like really cool work. I think um those, with regards to the glitter blessing, I think those sorts of moments can be like really important for someone.
Hmm.
I think about like some of the experiences that I remember from like college, and it's like, a person who I cared about or a stranger coming up to me and you
Hmm.
know uh seeing a part of me that uh like being seen is like such a
Being
uh
seen is powerful. It's
yeah,
so powerful. Yeah.
absolutely. um do you want to talk about games on demand?
Yeah, we can talk about games on demand if you want.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
so games on demand is sort of what I was getting at before, where I've been doing games on demand a lot longer than I've been with the sisters. Um, I don't remember how long. I always mark my entrance into games on demand by whenever Marvel Heroic, the Cortex Plus game came out. I
Okay.
remember it was the same year. So whenever that was, that's when I started doing games on demand. And I've been with the sisters for I don't know 6 years.
Okay.
Um, and I love games on demand. At least I love it when I'm running it because I used to I used to compare games on demand to terrorist cells. I try not to do that too often
It's the
anymore.
Dovecote. You can do that. It's fine.
Right. It's because the games on demand is one of those things where it's an idea, and it's an idea that spread out pretty like quickly.
Uh-huh.
And I still don't know where it's happening. Like I'm heavily associated with games on demand at this point. But I don't know where all the games on demands are.
Huh.
uh like in within the last like year, I want to say, we found out that Strategicon had games on demand because which is out in LA. And the reason
Okay.
why we found out is because someone shared with me a panel that happened at Strategicon, and the games on demand logo started the panel.
Huh.
The games on demand people out there like put the panel together. And then I was like, okay, I guess I have to like reach out to Strategicon and figure out who is doing it out there. Not
Who are
because we
these
care,
people?
but because we want them to know that the rest of us exist so that we
Yeah.
can share resources. Because there's other Games on Demand volunteers out there that may not even know that Strategicon is doing it, you know?
uh,
So, yeah, there's no. Somebody asked the other day about like, well, the Games on Demand organization. I'm like, there's no Games on Demand organization. It's not a nonprofit. It's not a company. Um, we're just a bunch of people who love games and have figured out how to bring games to different places. Uh, so if people listening have no idea what I'm talking about, Games on Demand is generally a section of a gaming convention. And the one thing that sort of reunites it is there is almost never pre-registration for games on
mhm.
demand. Generally, there's some kind of system where you show up and you then get to play a game. Generally, it focuses on indie games to the point where it in some places is called indie games on demand. And so you will generally not get to play the current edition of D&D and Pathfinder at Games on Demand. And that's really the two things that unite it. I run it at PAX East and PAX Unplugged, with help, not all by myself, because I'm in Boston. PAX East is in my backyard, and I was a volunteer for a while via PAX East, and then the person who was running it, who was just a guy, he wasn't like a game
Uh-huh.
designer or anything like that. He was just somebody who somehow inherited games on demand at PAX East. He and his partner, they had a kid, and someone else needed to run it for a while, so he asked me to do it. And then when PAX came up with the idea for PAX Unplugged, they were like, "Hey, don't tell anyone, but we're gonna run a convention in Philadelphia.
Right.
Could I get you to come down for it?" Um, not because anyone really chose me, or elected me. It's mainly because no one else wants to do the work, and that's
Right.
generally how Games on Demand exists. Like every so often, someone will reach out to us and be like, "Hey, we really want Games on Demand to be at this convention," and I have to go, "Okay, who's gonna run it?"
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
Like I'll tell them how it works. I'll give them
Hmm.
all my templates. Um, but we don't make it. There's no money. It's just people who love running games, uh, being given a space at the convention to do so, and then coming up with how it's best going to work at that convention. So you, my friend Eclipse,
I
you did Games on Demand for the first time this year, right?
I technically did it at Big Bad Con. So
Oh, okay. Never mind then. You're old hat. You're a veteran.
yeah, I mean as of 2024.
Yeah, that's forever. I
Yeah.
mean, t real long years these
Oh,
years.
they've been
So
going. Yeah.
yeah. Um. So yeah, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to tell
Yeah.
the people about Games Demand?
Well, first I want to bring in we don't really have a news section this episode.
Oh, let's.
N-
Okay.
news
Is there
news
normally a news section?
the news section as a thing is kind of gonna be I I may be phasing it out in 2026
Okay.
and kind
Okay.
of but there's still a bird that needs to appear. Cordis the news bird coming in
Uh.
from beautiful Boston.
Hey.
Okay. I just
Hey,
that
bird.
ritual needed to be completed at some point during this
Absolutely.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious. Like I saw you'd posted some statistics
Oh yeah.
uh
I did
about
math. Yeah.
yeah. I'm curious if there's anything uh anything curious that you noticed. I see.
Yeah,
Uh
so let's talk about what happened at Games on Demand this year.
yeah.
So at Unplugged, at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia, uh, this is currently, to the best of my knowledge, because again, I'm pretty sure I don't even know about all the Games on Demands. But to the
Hmm.
best of my knowledge, Unplugged has become the largest presence for Games on Demand. Um, we took a little time off from Gen Con. Gen Con used to be the biggest show. Yeah, but then the person who was running it didn't want to run it anymore. And if you have Sense the Theme, that's it. That puts an end to
Yeah.
it until someone else wants to run it. So we're back at Gen Con, but they're sort of rebuilding. But I do think we're bigger than they ever were. Anyway, I'm digressing significantly. Last year at Unplugged 2024, Games on Demand sat over 1,000 players over the course of the 3 days for the first time. We had 1,143 players sit at our
Wow.
tables over the course of 245 game sessions. So that's a lot of games, as you might imagine. This year, the Philadelphia Marathon happened at the same time as PAX Unplugged, which has
Right.
not occurred in tandem since the very first PAX Unplugged. And both of those events have grown significantly since then. Uh, and I have heard through a little birdie that Unplugged's official numbers were very similar to last year, if not a little bigger, technically.
Okay.
But I think a lot of the individual groups inside didn't see that. We took a little hit. So this year, still very impressive. We sat uh, 1,023 players over 230 games. There was 116 systems being offered out of our area, and 95 of those got chosen. So about 20 games were offered but didn't get picked. But 116 games were in our massive binders over the course of the weekend. So it's really quite impressive. And the way it works for those who don't know at PAX Unplugged and PAX East is I make everyone get in line. There's
Yeah.
no even semblance of registration. When you feel like you are ready to get in line, you get in line. And at the top of every hour, we see whatever games we have available for that hour. And it fluctuates all weekend. And you can look up ahead of time, like which games will be available, which hour. We used to not tell you, but we tell you now. Uh, and then we move the line at the top of every hour. And the first person in line gets first pick of all the games available that hour until we either run out of games or we run out of people in line. And we do that all weekend long.
Yeah.
The last game this year sat at 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 4 p.m. on Sunday. And we every single hour we do that. It's wild. It's a lot.
It's definitely
But it's a lot of
impressive.
fun. I think the first time anybody sees it, all they can see is anarchy, and I get that. It just seems like chaos. But when there's 8 other groups at this big convention, all doing pre-registration, and you're pretty much the only thing that isn't pre-registration, uh, we end up being a great benefit to the convention because if you didn't get into something, you have a choice between a wait list and us. Uh,
Right.
and there are some people who just have stopped bothering with the registration system altogether, and they just go in and out of our line because they know that every hour they're going to have choices, and there's going to be games that they know and games they've never heard of. We've got games that aren't published yet. We've got games being run by the designer. Um, and it always covers like a vast, I think, range of games because there's only 3 games I don't let our volunteers run. It's Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, and Everyone is Seagulls.
Oh
And
wait, why
it's
not
always
everyone is seagulls?
well, so the main mechanic in Everyone is Seagulls is screaming.
Oh, okay.
Um, that's how that game works. Is the players control a flock of seagulls, and when it's time to make a decision, everyone screams their ideas.
Ah,
And if you hear an idea that you think is better than your idea, you start screaming that idea instead, until it seems like a majority of people are screaming one idea. And when you're in a room of 20 tables, I
huh.
just don't feel like that's fair to everyone else
Yeah.
in the room.
Fuck.
We have been working with PAX on an idea of how to run it in its own room,
Okay.
with about a crowd of 200 people all participating. And I've
Whoa.
priced the earplugs, so I'll let you know if we get that done. But
Awesome.
we haven't managed to do it yet. But that's Everyone is Seagulls. Grant Howard game, the same person who did Honey Heist. He insists that no one should ever play this game.
Right.
That was not designed to be played. But other than that, as long as your games fall within the rules of the convention, you can run it with us. I can't guarantee that people will want to play it, but I will try my hardest to convince them.
Yup.
You
Hell
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Something new that you did this. I'm not sure if it's new. The designer meet and greet. Um.
Yeah, so we started that last year.
Okay.
So I'll tell the Dovecote audience. So this is a creation of spite. I'm not gonna lie. This is angry Brian creating events because Brian is angry. Because
Hmm.
last year, sort of close to the convention, it was announced that there was a new event called the Night Market. And the Night Market was an event where I believe they were going to take over a queue hall, like like a room that was mainly used to line up for big events that wasn't needed in the evening, and they were going to let all these tiny publishers come in and sort of sell their games at, when these publishers might not have been able to afford or staff a table in the vendor hall. And what a cool thing that is. Love that idea. Except they were not allowing RPG
Yes.
designers to participate. And I did not like that. I was like, oh, that's me being upset. Yeah. So I said to myself, what could we do to counter this in a way that makes things a little bit more equitable? And I told you earlier how we run games every single hour, right?
Yeah.
And in order to do that, we have a waterfall scheduling system. So I've got 30 tables, something like that, and I can't start 30 tables at 10 a.m. If I did that, they would all still be going at 11 a.m. So instead, I start somewhere between like 7 to 12 games every hour, um, which means that at Unplugged, the way they currently have it set up is we've got two little rooms. There's one room with I want to say 19 tables in it, and there's another room with 12 tables in it. And technically, for the first 2 hours, I always have 12 tables free,
Okay.
as long as I put them all together and I don't spread them out. So we said, oh, well, that means we have an empty room for 2 hours every morning if I schedule this right. And that's where the game designer meet and greet came from. It was our chance to give designers who were unintentionally, I'm going to say unintentional, I'll give them a little grace,
Uh-huh.
unintentionally excluded from this other opportunity an opportunity. And the way we decided to dole it out to make it fair is we gave everybody 1 hour and we did it in two shifts. And we didn't ask for anything. We didn't ask for money or anything like that. Um, but you had to be volunteering your time for one of the many groups at the convention. So whether that's the Alexandria Tabletop Library or Games on Demand or the PAX Together intersection or even Free League and Bald Man Games, who, yeah, I mean, they're technically corporate entities, but a lot of those people are volunteers.
Yeah.
If you were volunteering your time for one of those groups to run games, then you could come and for have a free table for an hour to show people what you're working on and talk up your stuff. And it worked last year. People really liked it. So this year we brought it back, and we had 24 designers.
Yeah.
12 for at 10 a.m., 12 at 11 a.m. And you are one of those people. Did you like it?
I quite liked it. I think you had
Good.
mentioned. I think that the only thing that we kind of ran into was just the way the shifts kind of worked out.
Oh,
But
the great exit that we experienced this year. Because we've only done it once, right? This was the second year.
yeah.
And last year I found that the 10 o'clock slot wasn't as well attended as the 11 o'clock slot, that people sort of like showed up as things progressed. This year, 10 o'clock was really well attended. And so when I needed to get the 11 o'clock people in, I went in there and I stood up on a table and I sort of like very boldly announced that we were switching tables, that a whole new set of designers were coming in. And without prompting, most of the people who were there not to like present left the room, and a lot of them stood outside the doors and just like gave people a second to swap the stuff, right? To like pick up what they had brought in if they were 10 o'clock and give the 11 o'clock people time to set up. But some of those people just left. They just didn't stick around. And I didn't expect that because it did not happen last time.
Yeah, it's so
Uh,
difficult.
so next time, if we do this next year, and I think we will, I'm going to be more sneaky. I'm going to go around
Uh,
table to table and be like, okay, Cam is here and they need your table, so you need to swap. Oh,
do a
and we're going
stealth
to do it
swap.
a sneaky little wave where people are very subtly swapping out,
I think that's smart.
so that so people don't disappear. Because I like it. I like the idea of it. I've never actually participated because I'm running it.
Right.
As a
Yeah.
game designer, maybe at some point I should participate. Um, but I'm busy, so I
Yeah.
don't. Uh, but people give me good feedback. They say they like it, so we'll probably keep doing it.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, aside from that, like we got to meet a lot of cool people and talk about our stuff, which was really neat. Um,
Yeah,
had a good time.
and I think um, what was I gonna say? Oh, I think the night market now allows RPGs. So like it's not a spite event anymore, They took the note and they adjusted. But we're not, technically selling things. You're only selling stuff if you have a license to vend. So
Right. Yeah.
And the nice thing this year, we had two groups volunteer to help you with that. If you didn't have your license to vend in Philadelphia, Side Quest Books and Games, who were in the PTI Lounge, and Goose Poop, Goose Poop Games, which
Goose poop.
I'm at like three. I laugh every time I say Goose Poop. Who had a table in the vendor hall? They offered to take anybody who was using the that space to sell through what do you call it? Not commission, consignment in their
Right.
space, which was great. I love it when I can't do something and someone else steps up. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
we do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of stuff.
we do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Aside from, um, I guess is there anything like you'd like to do with games on demand that you haven't done, or anything that you're like planning to do in the
We're
future?
always willing to try new things. We've done a few mega games,
Hmm.
which have been really fun. It's apparently the through line is Monster Hearts. As someone who's run a lot of Monster Hearts and loves Monster Hearts, for 3 years we did a Monster Hearts mega game at the last day. We'd start it Sunday at 2 and let it run to 6, and we'd have 3 to 4 GMs, and they'd each start with a group of students. Um, because Monster Arts is another game that starts in high school, and we would hand them a schedule essentially. So for like the first like 45 minutes, they'd be at one table and it'd be like homeroom, and then they would switch tables. And the groups would get jumbled up, and you'd be in first period with some of the same people and some different people. And then again, 45 minutes later, you'd switch to second period, and then by the time we got to the end game, things were so chaotic that we just had to like make it up. Be like, all right, so this group is going to take on the Fey King, and this group is going to try to stop the
Right.
Blizzard, and this group is just breaking into the principal's office for whatever reason. I don't remember. This group is planning prom, and you just split the tables up based off of what shenanigans people got into, and that was a ton of fun. And I'd like to do that again. We realized after 3 years of doing it that the people who were excited about it, they weren't excited about it anymore, which is
Okay.
fine.
Yeah. It's
Monster
tough.
Hearts has been out for a while, and we just need to find the next game. And I think my volunteers want to do Stew Pot next year. I think we're going to bring it back with
Okay.
Stew Pot.
Stew
We'll
pot's good.
see.
I can see doing stew pot for that.
They've got an idea. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to let them run with it.
Hell yeah.
Um, but it has to be a game that I can get 15 players to show up for all at the same time.
Right.
And right now, there's only a few games that I think could do that. And it's going to be a game that's going to work across multiple tables. I think we could do it with Stewpot. I think we could do it with Scum and Villainy. I
Mhm.
think we could do it with Alien. Those are the three games that I think could pull in the number of players and also work.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
those games did pretty well in terms of multiple tables running them.
Yeah, yeah. Alien was funny because so we were talking about statistics earlier. Just for fun, I pulled like which games ended up getting run the most earlier, and Stewpot and Scum and Villainy were both on there. Neither of those are surprising. Those have been popular at Games on Demand for a couple years now, at the very least. Alien surprised me. Alien wasn't on that list, but it must have been close to making it. And the thing about Alien that surprised me is several times we had 7-person games of Alien going. And to get 7 people in 1 hour, all excited about one game, is impressive. But also
Yeah.
having the game being able to easily support 7 people is impressive. Which is why I think it would make a good mega game.
Yeah,
Um,
7-person table is crazy. That's a lot.
yeah, because like we ran 5 games of Last Kiss over the course of the weekend too, but
Mhm.
I don't know if Last Kiss is going to translate to a mega game.
Yeah.
That's different. I don't know. As much as I love the game,
Yeah, yeah. It's tough when it's like I think for like a really intimate game like that you want a smaller table potentially.
I would
Um
want, I capped mine at 4 players at
yeah.
this because I ran it this unplugged, and I said, in a 4-hour slot, I'm not taking 5. Four is my limit because I need people to get time to be idiots. You gotta have time to make bad choices and experience repercussions.
Yeah. I capped Sapper
Yeah,
World at 4, partially because
yeah,
that's how many playbooks I have at the moment, because we've been in edits for the last two. But yeah,
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you got to make those decisions.
But what's one of the things I love about Games on Demand too is how much power we give to our volunteers.
Hmm.
Like I don't tell y'all what to bring, and I don't tell y'all how many players it can take. In fact, we have people consistently. We'll have two different GMs bring the same game, which means in my big binder of options, they're in there. It's in there twice. And one game will take 5 players, and one game will take 3, and one game will say all ages, and the other game will take say 18 plus. And we don't get a ton of kids at Games on Demand. We get kids sometimes, and I've had parents come up to me and like argue and be like, "Well, this one says all ages, so he should be able to play in the 18 plus game." And I said, "No, it's the volunteer that has said they are only taking 18 plus people for this game. It's not
Right.
about what the physical product can handle. It's about what that GM is doing at their table today and their comfort levels. Um, and if another GM can take 7 people, but this GM can only take 3, that's the experience they're ready to run.
Yeah,
And I love that. I
it's
love
great.
being able to have 115 games, whatever I said earlier, and um, people were coming up and asking for Draw Steel. And I think Draw Steel deserved to be there. Don't get me wrong. I hear great things about Draw Steel, but nobody volunteered to run it.
Yeah, no one wanted to run
And
Draw
that's it.
Steel.
Nobody chose it as a volunteer. And if you want Draw Steel to be on our menu, you got to volunteer.
Yeah, you
Maybe
gotta
it's
run
your
it.
time to run it. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, do we want to take a 5-minute break during which people can send emails or questions to either my email at darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com or in the Twitch chat? We will answer them after the break.
Yeah. Take a break.
All right, be right back. Hello, everybody. So, we didn't get any questions, but you can
I,
still send them. And
I
we
like
had
the
another thing we wanted
mailbird
to
is
talk.
still here. Yeah, because this is the
Yeah,
question for it.
this
Yeah.
is yeah. We're there's some like fucking like meta shit going on here. We've broken out of the
I love
boundaries of the
I,
Dovecote.
I love you, so, that's in Last Kiss. That's what we call it when you roll too high. If you
Okay,
what is normally like a really good success in Powered by the Apocalypse, we call breaking the barrier, and that's when you've done so well that you've attracted like the attention you don't want from
right.
the sort of like nebulous idea of the darkness, and it's so much fun. So I let's break the barrier tonight together. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you had some questions for me about faggot
Yeah,
games, and
absolutely.
I would love to talk a bit
Yeah,
about that.
we were chatting a little during the break, and one of the things that I love and I'm fascinated by is the idea of faggot games, and it's an idea that I love because so much of it speaks to me. I'm not going to try to summarize faggot games in like 10 seconds because I don't think it's a wise decision on my part. But as a queer person, as a trans non-binary person, as a person who creates, and I love games that are messy, and I love games that are raw, and I love games that are sexy. Like there's so much there that I really love. And using I'm going to use Praise the Hawkmoth King as an example.
Hmm.
I had the chance to read that game early in its development. It's also being published by Luck of the Harbor, so I've been able to follow the development a little bit. We had Sage come in and do one of the stretch goals for Last Kiss. That is a game that I do not want to play. Let me tell you, I am just not interested in playing that game, but I
Yeah.
will fight to protect its right to exist. My God, do I think that game should exist? I think it's so important. And I think that is so much of what I love about these games and this movement is how much it is sort of granting permission and building community around the idea that these games should exist. They should be made, even if you don't like them, even if they're flawed, even if they're messy, and they should be messy, right? Not like that. I'm not going to tell you if your game's not messy, it's not allowed to be a faggot game. But I feel like
Right.
I want to see a little mess. I want to see a little mess. Um, and people have asked me if Last Kiss is a faggot game, and I don't know that it is, because while I don't think it's super censored or sterilized, I also don't think it embraces everything that a faggot game should embrace. Like I think you could sit down with a group of people and really play the version that feels like a faggot game. I think all the elements are there, but I also think all the elements are there to not do that. Um, and it's something that I had the opportunity to talk about on the Discord you set up for these games, uh, which of course now is an archive. And as somebody who runs communities, I thought that might be something that's interesting to talk about. How do you feel about that eclipse?
Yeah. It's complicated. I think the thing that I'm increasingly realizing is that I don't think there are faggot games. I think that like
Okay.
faggot games as a phrase is a misnomer because I'm not talking like in the actual text of the blogs that I wrote. I'm not necessarily
Yeah.
talking about the faggot game, and maybe I am, and you know that might need some correction in future blogs as I think more
Okay.
about this. But like, I think the thing about what the ideal for me for faggot games is that it's a designer's directive, and
Yeah.
so I think there are no faggot games, and yet like I want people to strive to make faggot games. You know what I mean?
And that's so great. I love that, right? Because I definitely feel like no art ever survives the community, right? Like just
Yeah.
like no plan ever survives the real life once you like take it into action. Like once you release an idea out into the world, like people will see in it what they want to see in it, and they will make it their own. And I definitely feel that I've seen a lot of people claim uh, of the idea of faggot games and interpret it as a bucket that you're either in or you're not
Mhm.
in. And you don't feel like that should ever have happened, right? Is that what I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is I found myself having that urge.
Yeah,
And
you
that's
wanted to put things in the bucket.
yeah, and that scared me because as I said in my little like thing where I was closing the server, I want to be the fool rather than the judge. You know, I don't want to be the person
Yeah.
who's making people feel that they are that they're more or less because of the sort of work that they make. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to move people in the right direction. I want to open people up. Um, and so like the pressures of holding a space where there is this like constant temptation. People were constantly like, I don't know if my thing is faggot gamesy enough, and
Yeah.
I felt like I often had to step in and be like, uh, I don't necessarily think that's a useful a useful measurement, and I didn't necessarily have the
Mm-hmm.
words then because I think I was still very much in this like solid you know this like I was still kind of surrounded by like this edifice
Mm-hmm.
and so I think like fundamentally I think I want this thing to fucking like have to you know have to kind of move on its own for a bit. I want it to be a thing that people talk about
Yep.
in various spaces rather than just this one.
Yeah. Well, and can we talk about the space for a second? Because I think it was with your second article that I discovered the Discord. I don't know how long it existed before then, but it was with Faggot Games to the Faggoting. That's when I don't remember what you called it,
I
but
think it's
that's when
faggot
I just
philosophy. Yeah.
oh, there we go. That's it's almost as good as mine. But that's when I discovered the Discord, and it's been a really interesting community, and it's definitely a community. It's a place where
Yeah.
people came together not just to talk about games, but to talk about a lot of things that weren't games. Um, and managing a community is interesting, and it's hard. It's a lot of
Mhm.
work. As someone who, I run uh, the digital community actually for the sisters. We have a Discord that has technically all the houses have access to. It's called Only Nuns.
Okay.
Um, you know,
That's fun.
um, and one of us, I run the Games on Demand Discord, and I also run the Discord just known as Monster Hearts Fans, which I created years ago just for like a few groups, and it just kept growing. And in the Monster Hearts fans Discord, that's the one that most feels like a community to me. And I fought that tooth and nail. I gotta tell you, I did
Yeah.
not want that Discord to be a community. I never wanted a channel for food or pet pictures or anything like that. I just wanted people to use it exclusively to talk about Monster Hearts when I started it. And every time I gave people one more channel because they kept asking for it, I felt like I
Mhm.
lost a little something. And I kept telling them, like, no, if you want a community, like, here are all these great Discords. Like, go find community there. And I lost that fight. And honestly, now it's probably more of a community than it is even about Monster Hearts. Um, but maybe because it was such a slow process, and maybe because Monster Hearts was such an established idea already that there was no debate about what is Monster Hearts. Um, I had there's a lot of really strong self-policing uh, every time I changed, like I didn't have rules for a while, and when I finally introduced rules, like people were very supportive, uh,
Mhm.
and they're very like minimal rules, Like it's like don't be an asshole If someone tells you that something is not welcome, you're performing an action towards them, you stop. Um, like at one point, I had to add a second rule that means yes in private messages too.
Yeah.
Like I don't have trouble banning you if you're just harassing people in other spaces. Uh, uh, but I never wanted to manage a community. I didn't, and in that way, I'm almost jealous of you, Eclipse, because you did the thing. You said, "I don't want to manage a community, so I'm not gonna." Um, And I'm not going to shut down. If anyone's listening to this, I'm not going to shut down the Monster Arts Discord. Y'all are fine. Y'all pretty much self-police. But like I saw these debates happen occasionally in the Faggot Games Discord
Yeah.
that were like, I don't know, they felt unfair at times. They definitely felt judgy. Um, and they weren't happening all the time, but when they happened, it was just like it made me uncomfortable. Um, but I think those debates are how we find identity in a community. It's how we figure out where the lines are. But it's so much work to manage it.
Yeah, and it was also like a very
Yeah,
intense like ideological space,
right.
where
Because a lot of
there's
this is
so much
about
on the line.
identity.
I
You go. You talk. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's
I
okay.
interrupted you.
Yeah, no, it was this very ideological space where there was so much on the line, and I think I don't know, like it's funny because this is not the first community I've run, um,
Sure.
and I've had a lot of situations where, like, when I was in college, I was the president of my college's LGBTA for multiple
Mm-hmm.
years,
Mm-hmm.
because no one else was going to do it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in situations where I didn't have the choice. Like, someone had to do it, and that person was me. Um,
If you want it to exist, sometimes you have to be the leader,
yeah,
or at least
and
the administrator.
this time I get to decide that I don't want this to be a community, and
Mm-hmm.
I get to kind of nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I'm able to keep up the energy to make Faggy Games still kind of have a presence without having a
Mm-hmm.
Discord that has to be run by me. Anyone can make a Faggy Games Discord, and I will join it. It's just I'm not going to
Absolutely.
do it. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
running it.
Hey, Avery didn't make her Discord. I did.
Yeah,
Right. So I feel I think I said something to that end too when you were shutting things down that like anybody can make a Discord. Like if somebody
yeah,
wants to make a community, go out and do it. Um, I don't see this idea going away anytime soon. I don't.
no,
It's interesting because we've seen responses to it. I've seen people write about now expressionist games and romance games as if they were separate from Fat games, and I think in a lot of ways they are, but in a lot of ways they aren't. But it feels like we're creating more buckets, and I don't know. I don't want them. I don't want the buckets.
Well, I think there are distinctions to be made in the sense that like faggot games is a designer's directive, while something like expressionist games is a manifesto, which is basically providing a lens. At least that's my sensibility with it.
And I think that's really interesting, and because I've heard people describe what you wrote as a manifesto, but you don't. And I'm not saying it is. I'm not putting that label on you, but you don't think it's a manifesto. You think there's a distinct difference, right?
Yeah, well, I think a manifesto is on some level introducing,
Mm-hmm.
or kind of crystallizing something, and
Yep.
I think I think faggot games is more interested in. Well, I think Faggot Games and Urgent Warning is kind of a is kind of a journal in a lot of ways. Then I
Mm-hmm.
think Faggot Games 2, Faggot Philosophy is like a designer's directive. But
Mm-hmm.
it is like specifically uh, it is gripping onto something that has already existed. Um,
Sure.
I mean, it's worth noting that the reason why I wrote the first Faggot Games was partially because I had played in I think like the first and fifth games of Praise the Hawkmoth King. Um,
Yep.
So those things were kind of rumbling around in my brain, and so I think like the thing that I distinguish between faggot games being a manifesto is I'm not necessarily the person who introduced this, and I don't even think Praise the Hawkmoth getting introduced to it. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
it's I think for years we've had little blips of stuff, Anthropy. Um, I'm forgetting the name of the designer, but Go Rilling. Oh,
Hmm.
Limac. Uh, you know, games that have erotic themes, or are like really explicitly queer, really painful, really ugly,
Hmm.
queer erotic games. But I think there has been we're in a moment of especially strong movement on that front. Um,
Yeah.
I'm very happy
Yeah.
with it. I love it.
I love it too. I love seeing these games. I love seeing people express themselves and not like
Mhm.
and being less afraid of limits and less afraid of response and like marketability. It's just I don't know. It's really great. I really love it.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I also think like marketability is interesting because I think that like by being louder, by being more assertive about like what your thing does, you do pick up like a contingent of people who would not be tapped into the stuff that you're doing
sure.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, I think
Well, we
about
found.
like yeah,
Go ahead.
I think
Oh, I
about the
was
way
gonna
that
say
like Girlframe picked up like Mexplo girlies.
yes, that's what I was gonna talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Girl
yeah.
Frame, which I'm fascinated by. I haven't had the chance to play it yet,
Yeah, me
but like
neither.
there's some games that I read and I get really excited, and that game makes me excited. The way it's laid out, the rules flows so well for its genre,
Hmm.
um, and it's so good, and it's obviously already popular, at least to an extent, right? It's been out for what, less than a month?
Yeah,
Yeah. And the people are talking about it. Like, there's a real visceral response to this game. I mean, in the same way that Praise the Hawkmoth King isn't out, and like, there's so many people talking about it still. And there's been such a strong response. Like, you could write these messed up games.
yeah.
I don't know that I want to call Girlfriend messed up. It's a little messed up. But like these like strong games, these strong games that like would be considered like chaotic or just extreme or like edgy is not the right word. Like it's not edgy is not good enough. Um, uh, deviant
Yeah.
games. Games for, we like to say games for sickos sometimes now, which is,
Uh-huh.
it's fun to say. I don't know if it's always particularly expressive, but it is fun to say. And I love it. I love it. I love it just as much as the little tiny games that don't get the same recognition, that are just like, I really want to play with this one idea and I don't see people doing it, or they're not doing it in this way. I don't think they're going anywhere.
No,
Um,
I don't think so either.
and I would like to take this moment to say that I hated that Washington Post article. Just
Oh,
hated
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I just like it was so short. It was so short, and I feel like they spent most of that space talking about whether or not they were allowed to say faggot games, and not really describing it what it actually is.
Yeah,
And
oh sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it. I was just like, what is this? Like, how is this journalism?
Yeah, I I had a longer conversation with the Jen. That was very good, but it seems like it was kind of everything was kind of narrowed down to simple quotes. But I understand that
Yeah.
the goal was to talk more about some of the productions of faggots and their friends and some other pieces. So I'm not
Sure.
I'm not so upset. Part of it is also that I have a journalism degree, so I kind of know like how much of a fucking nightmare it can be to get anything into
Oh,
press.
sure. Like this I'm not surprised I said, let me not make assumptions. I would not be surprised if that is not the article that the person set out to write. And
Yeah.
because it was in the Washington Post, that's why it ended up being in the form that it was, because that's like the Bezos paper, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I still hate it. I still doesn't stop me from disliking that end result so much. My
We're
God.
live on the Bezos website. We're live on Twitch. So
Oh, that's true. That's true.
yeah.
We've gone full Lex Luthor. We're here in within the confines of his grace.
I actually intentionally I used to have affiliate. I recently took off affiliate because I don't like helping fucking Jeff Bezos run any ads or get any money.
Mhm.
Um
Mhm.
so the only money that I get off this is through like people donating now. And that that's every once in a while. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think more people should do that. If you don't need to be an affiliate on Twitch, you should fucking
Mhm.
press that big red button and get out of it.
And now we're talking about a whole new topic, but let's go
Yeah,
there.
sorry.
I don't begrudge people from using platforms like this. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I don't, because it's like you got to use what's available to you, and that you're gonna be able to like you want to be able to be found to an extent. It's like the Boston sisters used to have a really strong Twitter presence. We had a
Mhm.
really strong Twitter presence, and I held on to it for a while because there was this sort of this argument that a space like that needs buoys. They need lighthouses.
Mhm.
You want the people who are there because they feel like they have to be there to have some kind of safe area, some kind of like remnant of community. Um, and there did come a point where we pulled the plug. We felt like by being present, we were no longer helping anyone. Um, and I watch the artist community embrace Blue Sky, and then feel like they have to go back to Twitter. That they just like they because we live in capitalism, it's not viable for them to not engage in Twitter. And I don't know. I can't be mad at them because I can't blame them for capitalism. I can't
Yeah.
blame them for the state of the world. And I just hope that whatever they're doing they're also drawing porn of Jeff Bezos occasionally. Like just like be a corrupt little goblin uh as well. Like do be a sicko as well. Um I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird sidebar.
No, it's tough, and I think it's something the TTRPG community has like dealt with since fucking Google Plus went down. Like, it's like where do we
Yeah,
go? Where do we hang?
it's so hard. Yeah, and Google Plus was an interesting space, but of course Google, like what was it, 2 or 3 years ago now, they've renounced their do no evil, and they're not exactly an amazing
Oh,
company anymore. Um, there are people who don't like that Games on Demand works with PAX because PAX works so heavily with ReadPop, and there are some things that ReadPop represents that they don't like. Um, and it's tough.
yeah,
There's no perfect decision here. Uh, I love PAX. I love the people on the PAX side that I get to work with. I think there are amazing people who really care, and the choices they make that are unpopular, when they have to make them, they are almost always doing it because if they didn't make them, they would lose some essential piece of PAX. Um, like I know they did not want to end the masks when they ended it, but
yeah,
the convention centers have all these subcontracts, and it got to the point where they couldn't enforce it properly anymore. They just like they had so many people, enforcers, devoted to just talking to people about masks, and the attendees weren't listening, and they
right,
couldn't get the subcontractors to do it, so it seemed like the staff was ignoring it too. And it sucks.
yeah,
Um,
stuff.
I look at Big Bad Con, which I love. I think Big Bad Con is amazing, and I can't wait for them to come back. But I'm absolutely not going to pressure them to do it quickly because they are grappling with really complicated ideas and issues,
Yeah,
and they want to come back strong and united. And I want them to be able to do that.
me too. Yeah, it's we to on some level you kind of have to there's a little bit of dancing with the devil that happens, and you gotta kind of figure out where your lines
Sure.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and I'm a hard ass on some things. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
generative AI, if I don't want it anywhere near me, and Games on
Yeah.
Demand took a stance on it, at least the ones that I run, where we don't allow games with if you know or we know that that game used images or text that came out of generative AI system, that's it. They can't be run. They can't be run with us. And that continues into my work with the sisters. I get upset with sisters in other houses who end up using generative AI. I get upset with our partner organizations who decide to use it. I think it's never a good look, and I think it actively harms the community. And like that's my line, you know, like I will draw that line in the sand and I won't be understanding because I have never heard a good argument for why it is sometimes okay. I've just never heard one.
Yeah.
Um, like it's not about accessibility.
No.
Art is one of those areas where I know so many artists who are part of the disabled community in one way or another, some of whom uh like art is like what they can do and they have so limited options to function in society in other ways. And they almost all will be like, yeah, and there's no way I'm going to go to AI to make that easier. And I'm talking about generative AI, whose databases are filled with stolen art. Like that's how they function. That there's a lot of things in the world these days that we call AI, and they're not all the same tool. I'm talking about generative AI, and I don't
Yeah.
mind for that being my line. I really don't.
To people who think that that AI is an accessibility issue, all of the fucking shit that you see on the set, I did with a mouse and keyboard. So
Yes.
you have the tools to make art literally right in front of you.
I have hypotonia, which for I'm not going to explain hypotonia,
Hmm.
but as an adult, it means I have really bad hand-eye coordination, right?
Hmm.
It's I like to draw. I'm bad at it, and I'm never going to be good at it. And this isn't like a me like shitting on myself thing. It's just like it's a very frustrating experience for me.
Hmm.
Um, but I end up doing the art, some of the art for Last Kiss.
Those pieces fuck
Um,
so hard. I love
I'm
those.
glad you like them. I have a hard time um complimenting myself on those pieces,
Those are so good.
'Cause I see them and I just think of like what another artist could do, which is like, that I think that's like the definition of being an artist. Uh, is being mad at your art at least for a
Yeah.
while. But like I found out I was trying to make pixel art. I was trying to make pixel art and I failed. And I came up with this other art style that was working for me, and it's time consuming, but I think it fits the game really well. And it would have been a lot easier to use generative AI, you know?
Yeah, I
But
love
I'm not gonna
doing
do it.
photo mesh or photo batch stuff. Um,
Yeah,
I'm gonna send you one of my little photo bash guys because I
send me a little guy.
actually I'll put it on the stream
Oh,
too.
is that? Oh, that's awesome. I would never have looked at that and said that's photo bash.
Yeah, I used a I took an actual picture of a knife and an actual picture of a fox plush that my ex gave me. Uh,
Amazing. That's so
yeah,
much fun.
it's
I
very
love
fun.
that.
People should do this more. It's like really easy to do, and it makes some really fun
Yeah, yeah,
looking
yeah.
stuff.
And if y'all don't, I think if actually, hold on a second. Before I say it, I'm gonna check myself because I don't know if it's true. Because I don't remember what the new LastKissGame.com looks like. Okay, you can't see my art anymore, but if you go to my Blue Sky, you'll find it eventually. I posted a bunch of the
Yeah,
Blue Sky.
I
It's
love those
different. It's
pieces. They're so good.
interesting.
Like,
I'm glad you like it. I'm glad, and one
yeah,
day I'll like them too. I'm sure.
any kind of like fucking what was? Hang on, I need to look at them because I'm not remembering if there's a certain element to them. Yeah, the
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
the dithering is really fun on these.
What does that mean? What is it? How do
Actually,
they
is there
dither?
dithering on these?
I don't know what that is. maybe.
These might not be dithered. I might be wrong.
Wait, you have to tell me what
Or
dithering
okay,
is.
so dithering is. Do you see how? Hang on, I'm gonna pull up my thing again.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you see how it's got like the fucking. I actually don't know if I can define what dithering is. Hey, Lilith, do
Is
you
it
know
the
what?
texture? Is it like the dots?
I think
Is
it's the
that
dots.
dithering?
I think the dots is dithering.
Dithering is not, or dots is not inherently dithering. Dithering is when you take textures and you mix the pixels. If you look in the background of the stream, you will see like the crunchiness that like dithering provides.
Right. Yes. Okay. So the way the stream is set up is actually dithering.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
okay. I think what I meant is actually it's very like it's very pop. It's very like magazine cutout. I really like it. It's really
Yes.
fun.
I tried to sort of replicate that magazine cutout feel, and then a lot of it is about like playing with saturation and exposure and
Let me pull one of these up for folks.
diffusion.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I love like zines and the type of art you often see in zines and
Yeah.
oh, so this is really interesting. This one that you pulled up.
Yeah.
This one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because this one I actually don't like.
Oh.
I accidentally used this in the backer kit campaign, but this isn't the final image.
Oh
But
shit.
this is this makes this a great example, right? So this is the playbook we call the discarded. And the discarded is a real hard ass. The discarded comes into the game like firmly believing that a thing is true, and you have a few choices on what you believe is true. But that is true. That is like the word of God, maybe literally, but maybe not literally. And when people don't believe it or they don't act like it's true, like you have feelings. Like that's the discarded's whole thing. And I was playing with making the discarded look different than the other characters because of that. Because I really like the idea of them being like solidly black and white because of like
Right.
that's who they are. But also when I made this image, I made sure that I pulled a base and with a binder. I was really trying to work out like a certain like I wanted my friends to see themselves in the art.
Yeah.
And almost every piece of art layers images of people who present as different genders together, and like if you see one gender, like that's your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're all supposed to be like ambiguous to an extent, and I think people will see them differently. And so this was me trying to keep the black and white, but also trying to make it very clear that the binder
Oh, I
was
see.
there. And that's I don't think the image that ends up in that's gonna end up in the game. But
Okay.
like you can see like the levels of like thought process in that image. That's why I like that image.
Yeah. Yeah, these are so much fun. I also I
Yeah,
love I love the little
I like
like
this one.
yeah. Love the
Yeah.
little like Final Fantasy VII style like I guess it's really
Yeah.
any Final Fantasy or
That's a leftover from when I was trying to make pixel art.
okay, that's really
I, I
fun.
re- at one point I wanted all the art to look like it came from a Game Boy. Like the original Game Boy.
Right.
Um, because there's never a point in the game where like these are the four options. You know what I mean? There's always like more choices than that. But to like really like break these characters down to like sort of a false narrative, this overly simplistic idea. Um, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it. It's like intentionally wrong,
Yeah.
because so much of the game is intentionally wrong. The game is supposed to sort of like always be like a little bit eerie and feel like a little bit off.
Well, I love that. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
But yeah, no
um
dithering. I don't think there's any.
yeah, there might not be any to
There might not be,
Lilith has
like,
explained
mainly because I
dithering to
don't know
me.
what it is. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um all right. Do you want is anything else you want to talk about before we
I
before
think we
we
talked about a bunch of stuff. We talked for almost 2 hours.
I
I
think
feel
we
like we
did.
did.
Yeah.
We did all right.
All
And
right.
I don't see any questions. I don't see any
Yeah.
questions in the chat. You know?
quiet. And I think when I have a hiatus and then I get back into these, it tends to be a little more quiet.
Yeah. But these will go on the YouTube, right? Do they
Yeah,
go
they
on
will
the
go on the
after?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by all means, if people end up with questions, reach out to me.
Yeah.
Should I tell them like my blue sky? I feel like I
Yeah,
should tell them my
give
blue
folks your blue
sky.
sky.
Yeah. I'll send it to you, and then you can post it in the chat.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll work.
It's my name. I'm not very creative. It's Brian Liberge. Um,
Awesome.
and you can find me. And instead of doing the professional thing and creating one account for me and creating one account for like my drag persona, it's all just on there. So
It's
if you
all in
follow me on
there.
Blue Sky, you're gonna get a little bit of everything. You're gonna get the game designer, you're gonna get the IT professional, and you're gonna get the drag non-activist that's probably on several government lists. It's you're in for a good time.
And you're gonna get it. Pounds my pounds my fist into my open
Yeah,
palm.
you're gonna have to deal with all of that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for being on the show, Brian. And
Pleasure to be here.
we're gonna raid out to Moonshot Network. They're doing something
Ooh.
crazy, Hanukkah related. I don't know. Go watch.
I
Bye,
love crazy.
bye everybody.
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you. Goodbye, good luck, fans.